All right. We are going to talk about the body of our pen on the pen project. Now, I am not going to be showing you my measurements, so I'm going to do this very free-handedly, which means that you will not be able to copy my measurements. So I'm going to try and just make this to the best of my ability, and we can talk about the process in which to do this, but you need to make your own measurements. Don't copy mine, don't copy others. So we're going to talk about the body to start, and there are a ton of different ways to do each of these parts. I'm just going to give you the ones that are working for me. So you'll notice that I have a bunch of other pieces that are in the works on the bottom. Go ahead and ignore those. We're going to talk about the body today. So I'm going to start by just doing a new part studio. Going to do the normal thing where I'm going to start a sketch. I'm going to consistently stick with this front side as being my ideal plane. So I'm going to do a new sketch on the front plane, get rid of all of my planes, and we're going to view normal too. Okay, I like to use the revolve tool for everything. If you're thinking about the pen body, if I were to literally saw everything in half, long way, just literally get the pen out. We are trying to make it so that we're doing about half of this. So we don't need to do the entire thing. We're going to do half of it and then revolve it around the axis where the actual ink goes in here. So it's going to be revolved this way. Okay, so first thing that I need is I need the entire length of my pen. Grab the line tool, make sure that I am completely flat. Apparently this is going to be a massive pen that's 7.3 inches. Perfect. Now we need to get the depth of either end. So I'm going to look at this end as well as this end. I'm going to get both of those measurements, and we need the radius, right? If we're going to revolve it, we're going to end up getting to the diameter at a certain point, but we're going to create the circumference. So if we're doing a half section, we need a radius. So let's just imagine that this one up, looks a little crooked. Oh, seems fine. Well, let's redo it just in case. Line straight up. I'm going to call this 3/4 of an inch, which is a massive pen. I'm going to go do that on the opposite side as well. This one is about 1 inch. Perfect. Okay. The thing about this pen is I have some different curvatures to it. I've got a high spot here. I've got a low spot here. High spot were on this end and a low spot on this end. So we need to figure out how to get those curvatures. The easiest way to do that is to find the high spot distance lengthwise as well as widthwise. Okay, so if I know, and I'm going to use construction lines for this just to make sure, if I know that that high spot is roughly 2.082 inches away from that smaller end, then I put a construction line down this way, and then I'm going to raise it up just a little bit. I'm going to tweak some numbers so that this actually looks a little bit more accurate. Let's call this 3/4. Oop, not that one. This line up 3/4. And then let's just call this 1/2 inch, just to kind of make it look a little bit better. Perfect. If you want to, you can keep that number in mind. So I got 2.092. And then we're going to go in the opposite direction. So I'm going to do another construction line from this end, moving over that distance, 2.322. Perfect. And then I'm going to raise this up. Let's make this the same width as 0.625. Looks great. Okay, now I've got my measurements. This is where it's really easy for us to connect everything. What I could end up doing is just using the line tool and just clicking from place to place all the way across. But you're going to notice that things look really jagged. We don't want that. Instead, we're going to use the spline tool. If you remember, the spline tool allows us to make weird curvatures. It's a super great tool. So that we can have curves and things can look a little bit more rounded and it looks a little bit more realistic. So all I needed to do is just click all 4 of my different heights, and we're good to go. Now, once you've clicked your 4 heights, you'll notice that you're still attached. So you need to hit escape. So it's the far upper left-hand corner of your keyboard. So I'm going to hit escape, and I've got my solid. It's looking good. Perfect. Okay. Now we are done with the sketch, and we have our solid, and we're ready to do a revolve. Revolve is right next to the extrude button up here. Hit revolve. We need to create a new surface. The face that it wants is just this area in gray here. And then it wants to know our revolve axis. Since we're trying to revolve it this way, we need to revolve it around this point here. Okay. There you go. 2 things left that we could do is we could distinguish this orange tip. That is one detail that I have not put on there that you would absolutely have to do. And then we also need to make sure that it's nice and hollow. Okay, so we need to get a thickness of that wall there and then a thickness of that wall there. And honestly, it's really easy to do it just from the main sketch. So if I know for a fact that I have my line on this edge comes up to here, or if I know that I have a wall thickness, say of 0.2 inches on this end, and a wall thickness of wall thickness of 0.1 on this end. If I can't technically see the inside of this pen, it's going to be hard for me to know what it looks like. And so what you're going to do is then just connect a line from this edge or that point to this point. Oop, I made a few mistakes because it's not going to be straight. So why don't we just do a spline? We'll make this a little bit nicer so it can follow along. And then just make sure that I get to this spot at the very end. And then just hit escape. And if I need to, I can actually grab these points on the spline and just kind of make some adjustments so it looks a little bit more natural. I'd say that looks pretty good. Okay, so it might kind of mess with your, kind of flaring up on that end. What's going on there? Oh, because it revolved that part. I see. So it messed up our revolve. So we need to open that back up. Oh, and it's thinking inverse. It thinks that we want to get this part here, when realistically we want this skinny little thing here. Okay, so I don't want to revolve around this piece, so I'm going to back out of that. Instead, I want to revolve this piece. There we go. Perfect. That's the pen body.